Part 1: The Proposition. The evening air was abuzz with anticipation as I sat on the patio, nursing a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon. The soft glow of the fairy lights twinkled overhead, juxtaposed with a heavy weight in my chest. Tonight was supposed to be special. Tonight marked our 10th wedding anniversary. I had planned every detail: a candlelit dinner, a curated playlist of our favorite songs, and even a video compilation of our journey together. I was excited to celebrate our love, an emotion that had deepened and matured over the years. Little did I know that my world was about to be turned upside down. As the clock approached 7, Sarah, my wife, stepped outside, her silhouette framed by the dusk. She wore the red dress I had always loved, a vibrant hue that drew attention to her curves. I stood, grinning like a giddy schoolboy, ready to sweep her off her feet. But the moment she sat down, the air shifted. There was an unease in her demeanor, a tension that had not been there before. "Hey," she said softly, looking down at her hands. "Hey! You look amazing," I replied, trying to ease the palpable tension. "Are you ready for your surprise?" "Actually, there's something I'd like to discuss first," she said, her eyes finally meeting mine, but they lacked their usual spark. I tilted my head, concern creeping in. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Taking a deep breath, she spoke. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about us, about our marriage." That sentence alone sent alarm bells ringing. "What do you mean?" "I think we should consider having an open marriage." The words hit me like a cold splash of water. "An open marriage? Sarah, what do you mean?" I could hardly believe it. We had always considered ourselves a team, committed to each other in every sense. For a moment, I felt a wave of nausea, my heart racing as I struggled to comprehend her suggestion. "Let me explain," she said, her voice steadying. "I love you, and I don't want to lose what we have. But I also crave exploration and excitement in ways I rarely feel anymore. I think opening our marriage could meet those needs without jeopardizing our relationship." Her words stung, echoing in my mind. "I need to process this," I said, my voice barely a whisper. We had built a life together based on trust, respect, and love. How could she even suggest such a thing? I tried to consider her perspective, wishing to be open-minded, but another part of me screamed to retreat into the safety of our familiarity. "Of course," she said quickly. "But please, just think about it before you react." "I love you." I nodded stiffly. The words, "I love you," now carried a different weight, one that mingled with confusion and fear. This would be a conversation that would haunt me, one that lingered long after the candles burned out that night. Part 2: The Aftermath. The days that followed our anniversary dinner were a blur. Sarah was excitedly planning possibilities, openly discussing her views on polyamory as if they were new decorations for our home. I, on the other hand, had retreated inward, consumed by questions and insecurities. How could she want this? How had we arrived at this point where our decade-long bond was being questioned? I found it difficult to breathe. Every time I caught Sarah's eye, the words "open marriage" echoed in my mind, amplifying my anxiety. I loved her more than anything, but what she proposed felt like a betrayal, a way of saying our love wasn't enough. One day, sitting at our kitchen table, I finally worked up the courage to broach the topic again. "Sarah, can we talk about the open marriage thing?" Her smile faded, replaced with a serious expression. "Yes, of course. What's bothering you? I guess it feels like you're trying to fill a void here. Why can't we work on things together?" She sighed, exasperated. "It's not about a void. I love you. I am happy with you. But I want to experience life differently, and I believe that this is an opportunity for both of us. Do you really think I could be okay with me watching you carry on with someone else? Feeling like I'm sharing you?" Her frustration was palpable. "It's not sharing, it's expanding. Can't you see that? It doesn't erase what we have." The notion felt foreign, as if she had introduced an alien concept that I couldn't bring myself to embrace. But as the conversation dragged on, punctuated by silences of uncertainty, I felt a sense of hopelessness wash over me. Our love was fragile, and I feared that my rejection of her desires could shatter the delicate bond we had built over the years. That night, I fell asleep with a heavy heart, tossing and turning restlessly as a storm of thoughts raged in my mind. Was I being selfish? Was I the one who wasn't open to exploring our relationship dynamics? Navigating the choppy waters of unconventional relationships sounded treacherous. Part 3: Seeking Clarity. In the following weeks, Sarah and I drifted through a haze of confusion. She continued to bring up the idea of an open marriage in casual conversation, while I recoiled at the thought. I felt trapped on an emotional roller coaster. Moments of excitement when I entertained the idea collided with waves of insecurity that threatened to drown me. One evening, I sought advice from my closest friend, David. We had known each other since college, our friendship built on years of trust and shared experiences. He listened carefully as I poured my heart out over a couple of beers in our favorite bar. "I just don't get it, man. We had it all figured out. Why would she want to complicate things?" David leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed. "You know, relationships evolve. Sometimes, people realize they want different things. It doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't love you." "Yeah, but the idea of her with someone else," I grimaced. "I can't shake that image. It feels like she's looking for something outside of me, as if I'm not enough." David nodded in understanding. "I get that. But what's more concerning? Her wanting to explore or the idea of losing her altogether?" His words struck a chord deep within. The fear of loss, the possibility of an emptiness without Sarah, gnawed at my insides. What if you had an open conversation with her? Really understand what this means for her? Maybe it's not just about replacing you or finding something lacking in your relationship, David suggested. I took a long drink from my beer, the liquid warmth momentarily quieting my turmoil. "Maybe. But it's so hard to look past my own feelings right now," I admitted. "Just remember," David continued, "this is a dialogue. It's about communication and figuring out if there's a way to navigate this that still keeps you both true to your relationship." As I left the bar that evening, I resolved to approach Sarah again, but this time with a more open heart and mind. It was clear that I needed to understand her perspective better, even if the thought sent chills down my spine. Part 4: The Confrontation. The next day, as the sun streamed through our kitchen window, I found Sarah sitting at the table reading a book. I felt anxious but resolute. "Hey, can we talk?" She looked up, her expression shifting to one of tentative hope. "Of course." I braced myself, heart pounding. "I've been thinking about what you said. I want to understand more about why you feel this way. What do you really want from an open marriage?" Sarah closed her book and leaned forward. "Thank you for being willing to discuss this. I want you to know that my feelings for you haven't changed. I love you so much. But I have this urge to explore a different part of my sexuality, to feel the thrill of new connections. I crave that spontaneity that life sometimes lacks." I nodded, absorbing her words, still wrestling with an undercurrent of fear. "But what if it changes the dynamics of our marriage? What if we lose what we have?" She took my hand, squeezing it softly. "That's why I think we need to set boundaries and communicate openly about every step. This could strengthen our bond, rather than break it." Listening to her, a glimmer of possibility sparked alongside my fear. "So, you see it more as an expansion rather than a replacement?" "Exactly. Think of it as allowing us to grow while deepening what we have together," she replied, her voice steady and sincere. I struggled to process her viewpoint in a new light. "It scares me, Sarah, but I'm starting to see why you feel this could be beneficial. I really don't want to lose you." "You won't," she reassured me. "This isn't about choosing something else over you. It's about experiencing different facets of love and desire." Her gaze was earnest, and for the first time, I could see the excitement peeking through the worry lines on her face. But my heart still felt constricted, battling against an emotional tide that was difficult to navigate. Part 5: The Decision. After our talk, I found myself grappling with anxious thoughts. I needed time to reflect, to process this new dynamic. During our conversations over the next weeks, I grew more intrigued by the different scenarios Sarah painted, yet I remained fearful of the unknown. I began to read about open relationships, diving into articles and forums that examined the complexities, the rules, and the emotional labor involved. Slowly, I recognized that being partners wasn't just about unwavering exclusivity. It was about trust, communication, and navigating uncharted territory together. One evening, after days of soul-searching, I finally sat Sarah down. "I've realized it's time for me to take a leap of faith. I don't know how I'll feel as we explore this, but I want to try it for us." Her face lit up, a true joy breaking through the anxiety that had clouded my heart. "Really? You mean it?" "Yeah, but let's set some ground rules. We need to make sure we're both always comfortable and have a clear line of communication throughout this process." "Absolutely. I'm so proud of you for being open to this, and I promise I'll be just as committed to our relationship as before." As we crafted our boundaries, time commitments, emotional checks, and limits, I felt uneasy but hopeful. It felt as if we were standing together at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into an adventure that could either reinforce our bond or fracture it entirely. But what mattered most was that we were taking this leap together. Part 6: Facing the Unknown. With our decisions made, we began to navigate this new chapter in our lives cautiously. Each time Sarah would go on a date, or I'd find myself confronted with jealousy, it felt like a test, a small-scale reflection of love and vulnerability. I uncomfortably watched Sarah grow more confident and at ease in her choices as she explored the possibilities of an open marriage. Each time she excitedly shared her experiences, my heart raced with both pride and trepidation, forcing me to confront feelings I had pushed down for so long: insecurity, envy, but mostly fear of losing the woman I loved so dearly. Yet, as the weeks unfolded, I slowly discovered strengths in myself I hadn't anticipated. I found solace in the conversations we'd have after her dates, hearing her recount her adventures. It allowed me to view her through a different lens, a woman who was not only my partner but a person forging her own unique path while still cherishing our connection in the process. The road was rocky, filled with moments of doubt and uncertainty, but it was also filled with laughter, understanding, and an unexpected deepening of our bond.